What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about NIO. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So starting off with macro data, we have manufacturing coming out Sunday and also Monday evening. MBS is a little bit of a broader kind of sample, so I think it's roughly around 800 to 1,000 participants, whereas this one right here is a little bit smaller, between 300 and 400. Sometimes the market reacts differently, but regardless, forecast is 50 and 49.2. In both cases, 50 is a key pivot. Anything below 50 shows more of a contraction. Anything above 50 shows more of an expansion occurring in the broader market. Aside from that, though, one thing that could impact NIO would be algorithmic trading reacting to Trump talking about tariffs. So we did find out on Friday that things between Canada and the States aren't really going according to plan. There was one, obviously, update that did come out Thursday that the States and China did sign some deal. I feel like there's a lot of things that the public isn't really aware of. As far as what was told to us is that States is doing a 30% on China, China is doing a 10% on the States, but still no word of rare earth minerals, like additional details. So I feel like the market is still not really pricing that fully in as a good catalyst, but nonetheless, that will be a big deal for NIO and also the broader market for this upcoming week, because algorithmic trading usually does make up a good chunk of NIO's daily volume. But one big thing for NIO is going to be their monthly numbers. So that is going to be a kind of a make it or break it type of scenario, whether it does cause a kind of the further downtrend to really escalate, or you start to see a recovery. In reality, though, NIO did close green over the last week, up 1.91%, and that has not occurred in almost a good 2 months. So I got to give credit when credit is due. NIO definitely, even though it's been a very volatile time, it showed some strength at the end of the day on Friday. So you had this random activity, and I see a lot of people kind of posting about it, but no real explanation. And I have been unable to find any actual concrete news that came out during this time frame that would justify shorts to prompt this. And yes, shorts were actually the culprits on why this started. So if we kind of look at this teal line right here, so between that same time period, shorts were at the time increasing 3.9 million, and then they did return some to that 2.5. So roughly they returned 1.4 million shares. And in case you do not know, that does mean that they add buying pressure. They are covering. So yeah, for whatever reason, that's what kickstarted all of this, which as a byproduct and as kind of like sheep, you did have some institutions also buying and then selling based on that. So kind of interesting stuff. Let me know your general thoughts if you're aware of anything what came out during this time frame. I looked at a lot of the other Chinese EVs, nothing really similar to this played out. So this was a sole NIO type of scenario. So what's your viewpoint on that? But going into this upcoming week, 13.27% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 204.72 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is 8.04%, and then short score is 83.49. So what's your kind of general thoughts on NIO? One thing to keep in mind is with a shorter week, so Friday the market is closed because of Independence Day, so July the 4th, but typically over long weekends, shorts do return, as that way they don't have to pay one unnecessary day. So Thursday, possibly you might see shorts randomly start to return some shares, and that is ultimately why. But with NIO closing at 346, that does mean that the 350 and above strike prices expire worthless. So it's rather unfortunate, but you did have right now 865 options, call options at the $3 strike price. That is in the money. So you're not going to see any bump up come Monday. And even looking forward into this upcoming week, you have 8,000 at that 350, and then 8,000 at that 4. So ultimately, if NIO does get close to that 350, you might see shorts wake up a little bit, as what I mentioned on my video on Friday. So kind of just watch for that 350 as being a key pivot for shorts. But aside from all that, the bulls are anticipating for it to be above for whatever reason between that 350 and 4. So maybe they are anticipating kick-ass numbers coming out from NIO for their monthly numbers. And then flip side, the bears are anticipating for it to be kind of between that 3 and 350. So with us now pretty much at 350, we are on a key pivot. So like I mentioned in the beginning, it's going to be a very interesting and volatile week. But aside from that, with it closing at 346, it is trading right below this pivot point. So 347 is going to be a key pivot. Just watch for that going forward into this upcoming week. And then 339 is going to be a strong support, which it kind of did bounce off of that general area on Friday. So just watch for that to be a good support level. And then aside from all that stuff though, no new analyst ratings, but because of their monthly numbers, anticipate at least 2 or 3 new ones to come out, and dependent on how they are, you could see some buying coming from institutions, because way back when Jeff from Citi did give that $8.10 buy rating, it did really push NIO higher. So clearly, if we see some bullish ratings coming out, it will really help the stock price move higher. But aside from all that though, it is just going to be macro geopolitical type of scenarios playing out and really moving NIO through algorithmic trading. But on the actual chart itself, as I've previously mentioned, there's not really much positives to bring up aside from it being very oversold. And you can see that from the stochastic RSI. So if NIO is able to pull a rabbit out of a hat, hit a home run on their monthly numbers, then you'll see a very nice push higher. Again, with it being oversold, will really stand to benefit it. The 50-day moving average is sitting at 378. So that always is a huge deal for NIO. At the same time, you also see that be a big deal for shorts. So shorts might wake up as per usual, just to try to suppress it, as what they did ultimately end of April. Same goes for right here, second week of May, and then as well second week of June. So it seems to be kind of a cut and paste type of scenario. They kind of start to return, give NIO and some investors some hope, they move higher, and then shorts double down at these key levels, whether it be the 50, 100, or 200-day moving averages. So moral of the story, just watch for 378, and ideally for NIO to have some pretty good momentum for it to really break above that. So let me know your thoughts on NIO. Where do you see things going for this upcoming week? What's your predictions on their monthly numbers? Do you think it's going to be showing good continued growth? Or do you think it's just going to be kind of nothing and the market's going to punish it? One thing to keep in mind though is Lee did recently, as I mentioned on Friday, cut their guidance. So if NIO for whatever reason is in the same boat and they kind of have the same fears, that could potentially happen this time around as well. So let me know your general thoughts on NIO. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Hopefully everyone's having a good weekend. And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon. I give buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.